people think that the supply chain is quite rigid, you can't change it, and yet people know there's a lot of this, errors with it. How do you envision us making it a little bit more flexible?
So I think one of the key things that, Unmade believes is that the ability to take a design and that immediately into the relevant data to drive production, that's kind of one of our core capabilities. And I think that creates this much more direct link between consumers, whether that's through the customization tools that you've seen that we've built online, or whether that's through smaller store offerings or that type of stuff, being able to push that straight to the supply chain and putting that into a way that's really, really useful for those factories to be able to make things. That's where we've really focused. So the ability to connect the demand, directly to product choice and push that into production. So that's where we've really focused our efforts on trying to enhance the input really to the supply chain.
So with regards to today's situation, with brands trying to deal with customer demand and obviously knowing the factories and what's going on at the moment, making it pretty hard, what do you think the solution is? And I know loads of people say that we should bring manufacturing closer to home, we shouldn't do it so far away because, we've realized how much we rely on other countries to manufacture our clothing. Do you think there is a solution to this in terms of digital and technology itself?
Yes. So I suppose with like nearshoring, I think I definitely think that the important thing is, I think it goes back to this idea of marginal gains, right? So I think for some product types and some, if you're producing your core basics, it can be actually more sustainable, more effective to make it, on the other side of the world. If it's going to be seasonless and you're making it in bigger volume on a per product basis, than it is making it, in a very expensive or costly process nearer. But if you're talking about making agile products, like really quick to market, you don't know what is going to be made until the last possible moment. Then if you're also adding in 5 days for shipping, then it has to become nearer shore for those types of things. So I think it's not always true for every product category that it needs to be made in a nearshore way. Like there are also amazing factories in Asia that do amazing things and have amazing technical skills that's going to be hard to nearshore. But I think for certain definitely quick to market products, you're already seeing that with Inditex and Zara and those types of fast fashion businesses you do in the UK. Yes, they may not be sustainable, but if you're optimizing for speed and learning from the customer, then you need to move production closer for sure.
I mean, I personally, I wrote an article about the pros and cons of either or, but I actually do believe that, sampling kind of close to home is much better than doing it abroad. And then if you, like you said, making massive amounts, then doing it in Asia makes a lot more sense because obviously you can get a better price, you can get workers with skills that they don't have. So
particularly in knitwear, I think the skill level, other than a few countries in Europe, the skill level is a lot lower than it is in some Asian countries. So I think it depends on the product category as well. If you're doing simpler like cut and sew, then the variation in skill level is lower. If you're talking about complex technical products, then it tends to be, there are certain Asian countries that are far and away the best place to make some of this stuff.
With regards to customization, I know a lot of fashion brands are scared of this word, and only because they don't like the idea of a customer having the power to make so many changes to a design, let's say a t-shirt, that will take away from their brand and what they stand for. And I remember this being a question when I was on a panel with Kirsty about that, because, You know, I don't know if you've ever seen Simpsons. There's an episode with Homer, and they say to them, you know, we want you to design a car, and then he designs this car that's just like a monstrosity, you know, and it's what the customer wants, you know, and obviously the brand then completely folded, and it was, you know, it was a funny kind of cartoon, but it kind of gave me that idea that, you know, is it good to give customers that much power that they can kind of create their own, or should we put into place certain things that they can only do it to a certain level, so therefore they don't take away from the brand?
Yeah, so again, I think it's a similar answer to nearshoring, where I think there are certain types of products or certain types of engagements where giving the customer complete control is not only a great idea, but it's, you know, it's the most effective, efficient way of doing it. And there are other streams of products where it's a terrible idea, or certain types of brands. So I think that's the whole point about this demand-driven supply chain, is that their ability to respond to certain demands, but you also sometimes need to create demand. And I think we're not saying every single product in the future is going to be customized by the end consumer. We're saying we're enabling the flexibility in the product, the agility in the product, that you could use it for customization. But if you want to use it to drive a new trend, if you want to use it to drive a collaboration, you know, you want to have a line of people down Oxford Street waiting for just, you know, 10 or something, that could all come through the same supply chain, which is really effective, really efficient, you know, has sustainable materials built in, you know, you've thought through the circular production of it. Those two things aren't inconsistent. So, but it does require the supply chain and your business thinking to change to become demand driven.
Something I heard about you guys, what you do, is that you kind of foresee a future in the fashion industry where customization is made possible. Let's say if you are selling to H&M in China and H&M in France and H&M in UK, obviously very different customers. They want different things, different styles, different looks and colors, but using that as a tool to customize the product depending on where you're selling it, and to be able to do so easier with the merchandisers, and to be able to kind of create something. Is this something that I heard correctly? Because it was something I've kind of been reading up on you guys, and I kind of came across that, and I love that idea. And is this something that you know, that's taking off with brands at the moment, would you say?
Yeah, exactly. So yes. So that is something that we that's not true. So we've already done some pilots with some brands that unfortunately we can't talk about yet. Over the last few months of exactly that idea. So we're expecting that there'll be more products coming out this fall and next year with that kind of that model there of like hyper local product. And again, that's this idea of using the customizable supply chain, but not just the individual consumer making it, but the flexibility and the choice could be 10 products for the Paris store, 10 products for the Italian store. But why be that general? Why not be, you know, 10 products for the embarrassing knowledge of Paris now, the Champs-Élysées store, and 10 products for the La Rinascente or whatever in Milan. So it's like, you know, you're able to really, really, really zoom in, you know, using that same power of customization. So that can all come through the same factory, can come through the same factory network. That's definitely how we see things. So that's the other side, where you could, if you wanted to release a product, it may all be a sweater, or it may all be a t-shirt or a piece of outerwear or a pair of jeans. But what if you could only get that version from that individual geography, whether that's the individual store, whether that Paris in a week, or, you know, for a month, and you're only making what you need rather than making everything and then working out how to make all that stuff at the last minute.
I think that's a side customization people don't talk about. When I speak about this and I talk to people and I kind of ask a lot of questions, they never think about it this way. They're always thinking about the end user, the customer, them doing the customization, not as a B2B, like something that you can actually use as a tool to become more sustainable, to be able to target the right people, get the right product out, you know. And I don't know whether you know, people don't talk about it, but I've never heard about that side. Whenever I talk to people about customization, it's always about the end user, always about the customer.
So I try to say that a lot. So if you could help me in getting that message out, that would be great.
Because that's the thing that caught on, because it makes. Do you know what it is? When it comes to using technology as a tool, it makes sense in some things. You think, why didn't I think about that? It makes a lot of sense to be able to do that. And I do feel like with the fashion industry, it's all about the bottom line. So if you can show them a way that they can save money, in a way that they can be more sustainable and not sacrifice their profit, I mean, in my experience, they're always ready to jump onto that bandwagon.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I think for us, that bridge of something that we've done publicly that we can talk about is with Rafa. So that's the teamwear business. So you don't buy one product, you buy 5 or more of any of those product types. So an individual designs for a team, but Rafa is also using that same supply chain and same demand-driven supply chain that we've enabled with them to do artist editions to each individual store. So that's organised actually by the individual clubhouses in those specific areas. So they worked with a local Manchester artist, they worked with a local, I'm trying to remember the areas, like Colorado, you know, where they've got these communities, and they haven't made loads, but they've made them very, very relevant to those individual communities, and still doing that through the same approach that they can use to do teamwork.
That's a really good way of doing it, though. I think that what makes people fear is that if we haven't got a lot of product, then how are we going to make money and how are we going to sell? And I think we've got to get out of that mindset, you know, and I think we have to reinvent our business models as well. For yourself, what would you advise when it comes to business models? I mean, what do you foresee?
So I think it's pretty easy to say that if you sold all your products at full price, you'd be making a lot more money. Which I think there was some recent things in the business of fashion about the open letter from lots of the top designers saying, you know, let's end discounting. But you don't need to end. You don't actually need to push retailers that much to end discounting if you're not producing as much stuff in the first place, and you're only producing the right amount for the number of customers that are willing to buy that product. So, I mean, that's kind of basic economics, right? So the ability to be very, like, completely driven by demand also removes the need for discounting in the bigger scheme of things. So that might be, you know, also beneficial to consumers, where the overall full price, you know, headline number can come down, because if you're all selling it all through, and actually brands make more money, and for consumers, you know, you're not paying that high ticket first price, and you're not waiting around for that discount. So I think there's a lot in that, and I think it means that the wholesale model, it's already changing. I think stores like Selfridges that operate, or Galerie Lafayette or whatever, that are operating on full concession models or different ways of bringing product into store, I think are different, interesting. You know, pure play e-tailers like Farfetch or Zalando not even owning any of the stock that's on the platform. I think these are all signals of the old model of like retail basically not working. And I think, just really that idea that we've been talking about for a long time of, if you design a load of product 12 to 18 months in advance, you make a load of product, then you give it out to all your accounts or your stores, and then you wait for it to sell. That kind of design, make, sell. We try to flip it to be design, sell, make, and that really helps with that discounting and margin problem that a lot of businesses are facing, and overproduction as well.
I think you've got to be able to. I think you've got to think about the customer that you have there, wouldn't you say? Because if you've got a customer who wants what they want now, and they want a lot of it, and then you've got the more conscious customer who's willing to wait 2 weeks or 5 days for their product because they know it's well made. You know, it's not going to cause any waste. I mean, what would you say to the customer that expects their product now? Because even though we have got the conscious consumer and it is growing and the consumer has changed, we still have the old school consumer who is happy to go and pay £1 in Primark for a top.
Yeah, so I think that comes to the other thing that we don't talk about much at the minute because it's maybe too many steps ahead of where the market is of how you can also use customizable manufacturing supply chains to solve that problem. Then you have to buy too much. If your turnaround time for ordering more products is 2 weeks, then you only need to hold stock for 2 weeks worth of sales. So you can still have product to fulfill the buy now consumer, but you're not committing your entire season's worth of stock to that one product until you know more. So for us, enabling this new agility, that means that design, sell, make works for many, many different areas. So direct consumer customization, but also hyper-local products, and also this much more responsive way of managing stock. For us, those are all the ways that we can already enable that from a technology standpoint, and it's like there are 3 different volume levels. So direct consumer customization, you're making one of something. Hyper-local, you're maybe making hundreds. Stock management, you're maybe making hundreds, thousands a week on a recurring basis. So we definitely see that scale in volume as we're growing our business as well.
I think what I'm getting from you is to have knowledge, figure out what it is that you do, and then cater to that, and then that way you will not have a lot of waste behind. Would you say that is a good way of summing it up?
Yeah, and I think it comes from knowing your consumer, as you said. So if you know if you've got 80% of your consumers want to walk into the store and walk out with something, then there's a very particular strategy that Unmade can help you with to help your business work better. If you know that your customer is more conscious and is happy to wait, then you can do more interesting things where you can engage with them on a direct consumer customization piece. If you're a sports business and you've got loads of teams, how can you use this new way of making products in a demand-driven, very agile way? And we can help answer that. But I think that's the kind of the golden goose is like the consumer knowledge, right? And and then using that to drive the supply chain.
So all the data, basically data.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it's data. So data would be great for you to give to us, and then we can convert that data into all the stuff to control the supply chain.
Okay, so you're the data readers. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that's good to know, because I know that a big problem with brands is that they have a lot of data, but they don't know what to do with it. So to be able to take your data and make it something that can make you a more profitable company is a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then.
And converting digital into real world stuff, that's our secret sauce.
See, I like that. See, do you know one thing I do like after our conversations, finding out that you work with everybody. So it doesn't matter what your customer is and what it is that you do, we will find a solution for you that works, and that will make you a better business.
Yeah, I think the only thing on that, just to avoid people's disappointment, if we say everybody, is that there is a certain scale of business that it makes sense, and is a volume. At the minute we're not able to offer something at a reasonable cost to like small businesses who want to make 10 of something. We're really great for businesses that want to make turn their 1,000 products that are exactly the same into 1,000 unique or low run products all through the same supply chain. So it's that mass part of customization is where we can really add value.
And that's a good thing, because that's where they need the help.
Exactly.
The small businesses already know how to be a bit more sustainable. They kind of create their business based on that. While the big ones not so much.